Good evening. Welcome in daily UPSC editorial audio program. FTA for a start, the Hindu. The Indian Ocean as cradle for a new blue economy. Now headlines in detail. FTAs for a start, the Hindu. Support for export is a must for sustained gains from trade pact. According to the World Trade Organization, India had entered into 20 regional or free trade agreements (FTA). This count excludes the most recent pact signed with United Kingdom in July and with the European Free Trade Association (EFTA), which came into effect in October. Also under YR negotiations, most notably with the United States, European Union, Canada, and South African customs unions, with India now facing American tariffs of up to 50% on key exports. There are intensive efforts to fast-track these agreements. Some reports have been suggested discussions around the re-engagement with the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, which India walked away from in 2019 over mm, concern related to farm sectors and rules of origin. However, the New Delhi has not accepted accession. At most, it has explored consultative channels. Yet, trade diversification demands for more a deep, deliberate transformation of the country's productive sectors and integration into global value chains. Commerce Ministry data show that some earlier FTAs with ASEAN, Japan, and South Korea have tilted the trade balance sharply against India. The trade deficit with ASEAN widened from about $10 billion in 2017 to nearly $44 billion by 2023. A similar pattern holds for Japan despite India's export rising. Import of high-value capital-intensive goods have have grown even faster. The reasons are structural and policy-driven. While FTAs opened the door mutual recognition arrangements on quality standard, this the certifications, rules of origin, and other non-tariff barriers were not adequately negotiated. Many FTAs were not custom designed to reflect India's sectoral strength, nor were consultations with industry bodies sufficiently robust. The government did too little to popularize these agreements domestically, even as partner economies made full use of the uh, preferential margins. A review of the ASEAN, Japan, and Korea FTAs has brought some course correction. This is reflected in the more balanced outcome under the India-UAE Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement. Non-oil trade touched about 100 billion in financial year 25 DCFT data. As India accelerates negotiations with the EU and the US, it must intentionalize these lessons. In the in the case of the US, consultations with services, seafood, engineering goods, and textile exporters must shape India's negotiating stance with the EU. The focus must be on the carbon-intensive sectors such as iron and steel and cement, especially given the carbon border adjustment mechanism. A trade agreement is only the beginning, and the arduous task of supporting India's exporters through standard infrastructure, technology, and market intelligence must follow if these acts are to deliver lasting gains. The Indian Ocean as cradle of new blue economy, India must take a lead in promoting the guiding principle from the Indian Ocean for the world. Kilaparthi Ramakrishna is the director of Marine Policy Center and senior advisor to the President on Ocean and Climate Policy mm, at the Woods Hole Oceanographic institutions, the world's largest independent oceanographic institution at the Woods Hole, Mass- Massachusetts, US. When the United Nations Convention on the Law of Sea UNCLOS was negotiated in the 1970s and early 80s, India stood with the world's smallest and most vulnerable states. Alongside Pacific Island countries, India championed the principle that the seabed beyond national jurisdiction should be the common heritage of mankind. It was a remarkable movement, a large developing country aligning itself with island nations, not for advantage but for fairness. This was not new for India as early as the 1950s. Jawaharlal Nehru recognized the ocean's centrality to India's future, declaring, "Whichever way we turn, we are drawn to the seas. Our future security and prosperity are closely linked with the freedom and the resources of the ocean." That foresight set the stage for India's enduring role as both a maritime nation and a maritime leader. Half a century later, the ocean faces pressures unimaginable at the time of UNCLOS. Climate change is heating and acidifying the seas. Sea levels are rising, and illegal and unregulated fishing is st- stripping marine life from the water column. The Indian Ocean, home to one-third of humanity, is already one of the most climate vulnerable basins on Earth. India now has both the opportunity and the responsibility to play a historic leadership role once again. This time, the task is not to draft law, but to shape practice, in ensuring that the Indian Ocean becomes not a theater of rivalry, but a laboratory of sustainability, innovation, and resilience. The case for the Blue Ocean Strategy. India's Blue Ocean Strategy should rest on three pillars: stewardship of the commons, resilience, and inclusive growth. First, stewardship. India must continue to assert that the Indian Ocean is a shared space, not a contested one. By prioritizing ecosystem restoration, biodiversity protection, and sustainable fisheries, India can set the tone for cooperative management rather than competitive exploration. Second, resilience. As the climate crisis intensifies, ocean nations must focus on adaptation and preparedness. India can lead by establishing a regional resilience and ocean innovation hub, one one that strengthens ocean observation network, improves early warning systems, and transfer technology to small island developing states and African coastal nations. This inclusive growth, the Indian Ocean must become a driver of prosperity for all littoral states. Green shipping, offshore renewable energy, sustainable agriculture, and maritime biotechnology offer pathways to development that are compatible with climate goal. Realizing the potential, realizing the potential however, will require sustained investment and coordinated regional action. It is encouraging that the financial tide is beginning to turn at the Blue Economy and Finance Forum (BEFF) held in Monaco in June 2025. Governments, development banks, and private investors highlighted a €25 billion pipeline of existing ocean investments and announced €8.7 billion in a new commitments. With, with a near parity between public and private sources, the Finance in Common Ocean Coalition, bringing together 20 public development banks, announced annual pledges of $7.5 billion, while the Development Bank of Latin America doubled its Blue Economy target to $2.5 billion by 2030. At COP30 in Belém, the Brazilian presidency launched mm, at COP30 in Belém, the Brazilian presidency launched that the Ocean Partnership as part of the Belém Action Agenda committing to mobilize $20 billion for ocean action by 2030. These signals matter. They demonstrate that the ocean, long marginal in climate finance, is now firmly on the global agenda. India must seize this amount to channel global financing into regional priorities. An Indian Ocean Blue Fund seeded by India and open to contributions from development banks, philanthropy, and the private sector would provide the institutional architecture needed to turn phases into projects. Security through sustainability. Much of today's discourse on the Indian Ocean is framed in the terms of Indo-Pacific strategy, naval balance, freedom of navigation, and secure sea lanes. These concerns are legitimate, but they should not obscure a more fundamental reality. Ocean insecurity begins with ecosystem collapse and climate disruption. Illegal, unreported, and unregulated IUU fishing, coral reef degradation, and intensifying storm surges erode livelihood and undermine social stability. Addressing these threats require a shift from traditional notions of maritime security through sustainability. India's doctrine of security and growth for all in the region (SAGAR) Sagar, articulated by Prime Minister Narendra Modi in Mauritius in 2015, offers an important anchor. We seek a future for the Indian Ocean that lives up to its name as a zone of peace, stability, and prosperity. He said the Indian Navy and the Indian Coast Guard, working alongside civilian agencies, can deepen regional cooperation in maritime domain awareness, disaster response, and ecosystem monitoring, aligning security objectives with environmental stewardship. Equally important is the story India chances to tell, not to rivalry but of responsibility, not of dominance but of stewardship. As External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar has noted, India's approach to the India's Ocean is cooperative, consultative, and outcome oriented, aimed at aimed at shared prosperity and stability. The guiding principle should be simple and resonant from the Indian Ocean for the world. India's historic responsibility. As the Stockholm Conference in 1972, Prime Minister India Indira Gandhi warned, we do not want to impoverish the environment anymore, that we want to impoverish our people. That insight remains strikingly relevant. COP30 in Belém 2025 and the G20 summit in Johannesburg recognize the importance of uh, terrestrial and maritime ecosystem for climate stability, sustainable development, and community resilience, as well as anchoring scale scale up of finance and support for developing countries, aligning with the equity dimensions of ocean action. Momentum is building. With the outcome of the third United Nations Ocean Conference UNOC3 in Nice, COP30 in Belém, and the entry into force of the Biodiversity Beyond National Jurisdiction (BBNJ) Agreement 2026 is shaping up to be a pivotal year for ocean governance. India's readiness, uh, readiness to ratify the BBNJ agreement presents an opportunity to demonstrate how the Indian Ocean region can pioneer globally relevant solutions from green shipping corridor and blue bonds to inclusive marine technology transfer and carefully governed ocean-based carbon dioxide removal. The agenda could also serve as a defining theme for India's chairmanship of the Indian Ocean Dream Association. India's history in ocean diplomacy gives it credibility. India's future in ocean leadership gives it the responsibility. The Indian Ocean, cradle of some of the world's oldest civilizations, can now become the cradle of new blue economy, one that marries prosperity with sustainability and resilience with justice. The challenge is clear: no move beyond rhetoric, to align vision with finance and to build partnership that endure for the world. The message is urgent. The ocean is not a void to be filled or a frontier to be conquered. It is the foundation of foundation of life itself. If India leads with ambition, humi- humility, humility, and inclusivity, the Indian Ocean can once again demonstrate what was evident during unclosed negotiations, that even in the most complex of arenas, cooperation can prevail over conflict and solidarity over rivalry. The time to act is now. Thank you.